What you're about to see has never happened before in the history of sport. Not just MMA, not just combat sports. Sport, on June 14, 2026, on the South Lawn of the White House in Washington, D.C., the UFC held a championship card, under the stars, in front of the president, with the most iconic building in the world as the backdrop. What you're about to see has never happened before in the history of sport. Not just MMA, not just combat sports. Sport, and the question on everyone's mind wasn't just who would win. It was, how did we get here? Quick cut montage. Topuria KO highlights, Gaethje war face, Pereira flying knee. Crowd going insane. Tonight we break it all down. The fights, the storylines, the drama, the politics, and what UFC Freedom 250 means for the future of this sport. Stick around. This one goes deep. Let me set the scene for you. It's 2026. The UFC just signed the biggest media deal in its history, moving its events to Paramount+. No more pay-per-view walls. That alone was seismic, but Dana White and the UFC brass weren't done. Because when you have a friendship with the President of the United States, a man who has been ringside at UFC events for years, you dream big. The idea was almost too crazy to be real. UFC Freedom 250. A fight card on the South Lawn of the White House to celebrate America's 250th birthday. Also, coincidentally, President Trump's 80th birthday. Archival footage. Trump at UFC events over the years, the White House announcement press conference. The UFC built a 92-foot-tall stadium structure in the backyard of the president's residence. Let that sink in. 92 feet. That's the size of a music festival main stage, but instead of rock stars, you've got the best fighters on the planet. 4,000 seats, every single one filled, invite only. The CEO of the UFC publicly predicted, quote, Super Bowl-type viewership. That's not hyperbole, that's a statement of intent. But here's the thing. A spectacular venue means nothing without spectacular fights. And brother, they delivered. Let me walk you through the card, because top to bottom, this thing was stacked. Opening the main card, Diego Lopes versus Steve Garcia at featherweight. Lopes is a problem for everyone at 145. Fast hands, relentless pressure. Garcia is tough as nails, good warm-up fight. Then you've got Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkhouse at middleweight. Nickel, the former Penn State wrestler, is still undefeated. He's been hunting for credibility, and every win adds to that case. Mauricio Ruffy versus Michael Chandler. Chandler, a man who has given us some of the most unforgettable moments in UFC history, and here he is, main carding the White House. If that's not a redemption arc, I don't know what is. Josh Hockett versus Derek Lewis. Now Hockett is the breakout star of 2026. College football walk-on turned UFC heavyweight contender. His story is insane, and we're going to come back to it. Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, is always one punch away from putting anyone to sleep. Sean O'Malley versus Ayman Zahabi at bantamweight. O'Malley is flashy, controversial, and always must-watch TV. He comes in as a massive favorite at minus 440. Then the co-main event. Alex Pereira versus Cyril Gain for the interim heavyweight title. And headlining the night, Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje for the undisputed UFC lightweight championship of the world. Quick graphics package showing fighter photos and records. 7 fights. 2 title bouts, 1 night, 1 location that no one will ever forget. Let's talk about Ilia Topuria, because if you haven't been paying attention, wake UP. Born in Germany to Georgian parents, raised in Spain, trains in Georgia, represents Georgia. The man is a walking cultural fusion, and inside the octagon, he is a weapon. 17-0, let that sit with you, 17-0. But the record isn't even the most impressive part. It's the quality of opposition. He ended Alexander Volkanovski's reign as featherweight champion with a brutal second-round KO. Volkanovski, who had been pound for pound one of the best fighters on the planet. Then he moved up to lightweight, a completely new weight class, and knocked out Max Holloway, a man who had just set the record for most significant strikes in UFC history. Knocked out. And then Charles Oliveira, du Bronx, a man who had submitted Gaethje warrior McGregor. Topuria finished him too. 3 consecutive KOs, 3 future Hall of Famers. In a row, He's 29 years old. He has a 9-year age advantage over Gaethje entering this fight, and he is absolutely certain about one thing. Not "I think I'll win," not "I like my chances." First round knockout, that's the level of confidence we're dealing with. His striking is elite, his footwork is elite, his chin is granite. And his composure, ice cold. There's a reason the odds makers have him at -500. They don't give those numbers out lightly. But here's what I'll say. Topuria has also never faced anyone quite like Justin Gaethje. And that's where it gets interesting. Justin Gaethje is, without question, one of the most entertaining fighters to ever set foot in the UFC. The highlight, the name says it all. The man does not fight safe. He does not play it conservative. He goes to war every single time. He averages 7.05 significant strikes absorbed per minute. That's not a typo. That number means he's getting hit a lot. And he keeps coming. He has been in some of the most insane fights in modern UFC history. His trilogy with Donald Cerrone, the war with Edson Barboza, the fight with Justin Gaethje that broke the internet. He's challenged for the title twice before against Khabib Nurmagomedov, against Charles Oliveira. Lost both, but the way he fights. You leave those arenas feeling like you witnessed something special, even in defeat. At 37, this is almost certainly his last shot. He knows it. His corner knows it. The MMA world knows it. There's a very real possibility that if he loses this fight, Gaethje retires. Slow-mo footage of Gaethje's intense pre-fight face. Think about what that means. This fight carries the weight of a legacy. He won the interim belt by defeating Paddy Pimblett, upset of the year candidate. And he came into Freedom 250, having beaten both Pimblett and Rafael Fiziev back-to-back. His camp's strategy. They reportedly want to use range movement, something atypical for Gaethje. Don't walk straight in, don't give Topuria the counter. But here's the tea Topuria told the media. That is next-level psychological warfare. He's telling you what he plans to do, and the scary part is, you believe him. This is the fight that could define both careers forever. Oh, and I almost forgot the subplot that added a whole other layer of spice to this card. During fight week, reports surfaced that Topuria and Gaethje's camps had an off-camera incident involving family members. Gaethje publicly blamed Topuria for sparking family drama ahead of the title fight. Now, whether this was a genuine beef or psychological chess, I don't know. But what I do know is that it added genuine animosity to this matchup. This wasn't just two athletes competing for a belt anymore. There was heat. Real heat. And when two fighters genuinely dislike each other, the in-cage product almost always delivers something memorable. Now let's talk about the co-main event. Because if the main event is a blockbuster, this is the movie after the blockbuster that somehow might outshine it. Alex Pereira. Poten, born in Sao Paulo, Brazil, former kickboxing world champion, UFC middleweight champion, UFC light heavyweight champion, and now hunting the heavyweight title. If he wins against Stool, Pereira becomes the only fighter in UFC history to hold titles in 3 divisions. Let me put that in context. The 3-division champion conversation has existed for years. John Jones talked about it. Conor McGregor dreamed about it. Nobody did it. Alex Pereira, who started MMA relatively late in his career, is on the verge of making history. 11 of his 13 wins have come by knockout. 11. His path to this fight was wild too. He lost the light heavyweight belt to Magomed Ankalaev at UFC 313, a heartbreaking loss. Then he got his revenge at UFC 320, finishing Ankalaev in the first round. And then, instead of sitting on the light heavyweight throne, he vacated the belt and moved up to heavyweight. Let's be clear, Stool is not a pushover. Bon Gammon is a technical striker with elite footwork. He's the #1 ranked heavyweight contender. And heading into this fight, the odds makers had it as a coin flip, almost exactly even at -110 each way. Pereira has only been in MMA since 2015. He didn't start until his late 20s. And yet here he is, potentially the greatest champion per weight class ratio in the sport's history. He also said publicly that if he wins the interim title, he's not waiting for Tom Aspinall. He's going straight for the undisputed belt. The ambition is breathtaking. The execution somehow keeps matching it. Let's quickly hit the other stories on this card that deserve your attention. Josh Hockett. This dude, HOKIT. College football walk-on from a small school, didn't even have a scholarship, who decided one day he wanted to fight in the UFC. He made it happen. He's on a ridiculous winning streak. He trash-talked Derek Lewis all camp, and Lewis said he'd shut him up in the octagon. This is the kind of fight that creates lifelong fans. Michael Chandler at the White House. This man has fought Tony Ferguson in a fight of the decade candidate. He's had epic battles with Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje. He's fought Conor McGregor. He has been the most exciting fighter at lightweight for the past 5 years, often without the belt to show for it. Against Mauricio Ruffi, a Brazilian knockout artist, this is exactly the kind of match Chandler was built for. Sean O'Malley. Sugar Sean O'Malley at the White House, living his best life. He's fighting Ayman Zahabi, who is a capable but beatable opponent. O'Malley comes in heavy favorite, but he's always entertaining on the mic, always delivering drama, and always one slip away from a shocking upset. Okay, let's zoom out, because UFC Freedom 250 isn't just a fight card. It's a statement. The UFC has spent the last 20 years going from a niche, barely legal underground sport to the biggest combat sports promotion on the planet. Moving to Paramount Plus and removing the pay-per-view barrier, that was the first earthquake. Now potentially tens of millions of people can watch UFC events, no extra fee. Hosting a card at the White House, that is the second earthquake. Think about what this does for international audiences. Think about how it plays in Europe, in Georgia, Topuria's home country, in Brazil, in Japan. The UFC just put their product on the most famous residential address on Earth. The CEO called it Super Bowl-type viewership, and for the first time. Maybe he's right. And then, lurking in the shadows, is the elephant in the room that the whole MMA world is thinking about. Conor McGregor returns, 5 years away, the most polarizing figure in combat sports history coming back. Against Max Holloway, a man he hasn't faced in almost a decade. Holloway, by the way, just got knocked out by Topuria at Freedom 250's predecessor event. So if Holloway wins, does he get a title shot? Does a McGregor win justify a title shot? The chess moves are already happening. The domino effect from Freedom 250 is going to shape the next 2 years of the UFC. Here's the bottom line. UFC Freedom 250 wasn't just a fight card. It was a moment. The kind of moment where you remember exactly where you were, who you were with, what you were feeling. Ilia Topuria, potentially the most complete fighter on the planet at 29, defending his title on the grandest stage ever assembled for MMA. Justin Gaethje, the heart of a lion. The chin of a mountain, fighting for his legacy in what may be his final UFC title shot. Alex Pereira chasing history that nobody has ever achieved. The White House, the 250th birthday of America, a 92-foot stage, 4,000 fans. Millions watching worldwide. This is what the UFC has become. And if you're not watching, you are genuinely missing out on the most exciting era of combat sports that has ever existed. I want to know what you think. Drop it in the comments. Does Topuria deliver the first-round KO he promised? Or does Gaethje's heart and experience pull off the greatest upset of his career? And can Pereira actually become a 3-division champion? Let's debate it. If you want a full breakdown of every fight result and what it means for the future of the UFC lightweight and heavyweight divisions, the follow-up video drops this week. Make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell.